Greetings, I'm Hellena Pugh, a Marine Corps veteran and the host of your 5-Minute Salute. Today I have with me Chris Keeling. Chris, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
So Chris, tell me, how did you become a member of our nation's military?
Well, I always wanted to join up, and I actually wanted to join the Marines first, but the Marines wouldn't guarantee me 0311 infantry, which is what I wanted. So I went to the Army and became an 11 Bravo back in decades ago, back in 1989, and I did about 10 years active duty. After Desert Storm, I couldn't re-enlist infantry because we were over strength. Okay. But so I went to military intelligence. I was assigned to 10th Special Forces Group and then to the National Security Agency. Excellent. And after about 10 years of active duty, I left and went in the reserves, where I retired actually in 2012. And then 9 years later, went back in.
You're the second person that I've interviewed that after a good long stint kind of went back in.
Well, I was invited by a friend of mine to come back in and help stand up a really cool unit, and I've been enjoying it ever since. I figure I'll just stay until I get kicked out. All
right. So now tell me about Mars Games and what you do there.
So I'm CEO of Mars Games. We make video games, and we haven't announced our first project yet, but that'll be coming soon. Okay. And I actually got in the game industry while I was still on active duty. Okay. I was working at the National Security Agency, and I found a request on a military history forum that I was a member of for someone to write historical background material for a World War II video game. Oh, wow. So I applied for it, saying, hey, this would be cool, some fun money, right? Right. And I had so much fun doing it that I decided I was going to get out and do games full-time. Right. And I got out. First project I worked on was America's Army, the recruiting video game that we've had for about 20 years. Right. just shut down last year. And haven't looked back. I've enjoyed making video games ever since. Right.
So then your first video games are really on an educational type tip, right? Where you're trying to educate the public about something that's related to military. So like you were saying, World War II, so you're learning about history while they're playing the game at the same time. Is that kind of the way it originally worked?
Well, you can't help but learn about the history when you're playing it to some extent. But really, it's about having a fun game that's challenging and interesting. So the first game I worked on was a World War II tank combat game, and then America's Army, and then a couple of other games, and then back to tanks with World of Tanks at wargaming.net, where I worked for about 10 years. Okay,
and so now you're getting ready to launch your own first big project.
Yes.
Oh, but you won't tell us about it.
Not yet.
Okay, so now when you were transitioning from being full-time or active duty military into your civilian role, is there something that you either learned or were challenged with that you wish you knew or that you'd like to share with other veterans?
I'd just like to say that you can do it, and you can leverage that military experience. I leveraged my military experience to get that position, doing the historical research and writing the manuals for this video game. Right. Then I leveraged my military experience and my experience on that first game to work on America's Army. So whatever experience you have is going to be, it's unique to you, and you can leverage it to get into almost any industry if you can find some relationship. Yeah. And military experience by itself is useful. Like, I would love to hire more veterans, right? Hiring veterans is great because you have a good baseline. You know that they're persevering, they have grit, they have tenacity. Right. They have integrity. They're gonna do the job, right? And you can't always find that among civilians. You know, that's why we have people wash out, right, in boot camp, basic training, because they can't handle even that pressure, which we know is not that much. Right. But you know, they've been to a certain level of pressure and performance, and they've met that. So I prefer, to hire veterans when I can.
Yeah, so that's kind of, one of the things I learned, but I learned it prior to entering the military. I used to be in sales, and being able to create a niche or being able to talk about yourself. I always tell people when you go into interviews, they're always asking pretty standard questions. When they say to you, what can you tell us, something that we should know about you, or tell us something about yourself? And people really flub that question, but I always try and tell people, especially veterans, this is when you have the opportunity to shine a light on you. So know something about what you've been through. Be able to present your history, because the person that's interviewing you doesn't know you. And so they're giving you an opportunity to let them in and really really see who you are. And sometimes as veterans, we kind of get, weird tunnel vision. We'll be focused and we won't highlight our personal experience. So I do like what you had to say about creating that niche and taking your own experiences and being able to speak to those and highlight those. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Chris, on the 5-Minute Salute. I really appreciate you being here.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
Excellent. I want to thank you for joining me for this week's 5-Minute Salute. And do us a favor, render a salute by liking and sharing this video. Have an awesome week. My name is Hellena Pugh. I am the founder of ZaharaVets Network. So I started ZaharaVets Network because as I transitioned out of the military in 2012, I was encountering so many challenges with my transition, and I realized that there really wasn't an organization that spoke definitively to the issues that impacted women veterans, but also I encountered other male veterans who were having very similar issues to which there really wasn't an answer. So I started the organization so that I can provide information for other veterans, but also put us on the path to start providing those services that weren't being offered.